Let's do it.
Hello, welcome, and sorry. Welcome back to another Friday live stream with the Maple Bitcoin boys, your favorite three Canadian Bitcoiners. I'm Jor. I'm joined by Rajat, Forrest. And today we're talking about how much Bitcoin do you need? One of the most common questions we receive in the space is how much Bitcoin do I need? And we got in brackets there. It's much less than you think. So we're going to break that down today. This is actually a conversation we had on Wednesday. We had a nice 40-minute video for you guys and girls. And when we replayed it, the sound was off. So we're going to do it live. I think it'll be good. Maybe not as good, maybe better. Who knows? But anyways, welcome, boys. Thanks for being here today. Before we go any further, we should mention Maple Bitcoin, the channel that we have on YouTube. We're going to share the link here. If you haven't yet, make sure you go over there and subscribe, because that's where you're going to get some exclusive content from us that's only going to be available on that channel. We also have our Maple Bitcoin School community, which is going to have a happy hour session today at 3:30 Eastern time, so in about an hour and a half from right now. And last but not least, that QR code right beside Rajat's head, that's our Maple Bitcoin Reserve Fund. So we don't have any sponsors on this channel. We never will. And that's how you can help us out, support the channel if you like what we're doing here. So boys, where do we begin?
One other thing is also give the video a thumbs up. Helps get the video out to more people. We can have more people in the chat asking great questions and all of that.
Yes, true. Where should we begin here? Rajat, you want to bring up this graphic, kick things off?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so one thing that I'm so surprised that people still don't get it. They still don't get it that one Bitcoin can be split into 100 million Satoshis. And I'm sure that the people watching this right now, they probably understand it, because if you're watching this, you've probably been paying attention to Bitcoin for a while. Maybe you understand it, but most people don't, right? Most people don't get it. So this video is, let's say, for example, if you want to share with your family or friends, I think this is a really important video. Most people don't get that you can split one Bitcoin into 100 million Satoshis, and one Bitcoin is, I don't think most people need one Bitcoin. Right now, one Bitcoin is $108,000. You can get something like $100 worth of Bitcoin. You can buy 100,000 Satoshis. So $100 worth of Bitcoin, $108.56 will buy you 100,000 Satoshis. And this is, of course, down from actually earlier in August. Me and Forrest were looking at this. Earlier in August, one Bitcoin was $125K. Today, it's $108,000. So the people who wanted a discount, you're getting it. Are you going to take action, right? So right now, like I said, you can buy 100,000 Satoshis for $108. At some point, you're going to be paying $1,000, and you're going to be paying $10,000 for the exact same number of Satoshis. At some point, I think that you're not going to be able to buy these Satoshis, the 100,000 Satoshis. You're not going to be able to buy them for dollars, because dollars are eventually going to be deemed worthless by the public. People won't want to save in dollars. If you don't want to save in dollars, then if nobody wants to save in dollars, not just you, but if nobody wants to save in dollars, then the value of the dollar goes to zero. The only reason why the current financial system works, and the only reason why we can exchange pieces of paper for the best form of money in the world, is because people still don't understand that dollars are essentially worthless. So get your hands on whatever you can. But I think that you need a lot less than you think. A lot of people think that they need one Bitcoin. They think they need 10 Bitcoin. They think they need 100 Bitcoin to retire, but that's not the case. I think you can buy something like, if you were to just consistently buy $100 worth of Bitcoin per week for a few years, let's say 4 years, let's say you do it for 208 weeks, you're going to have accumulated a significant amount of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but one thing you touched on was being able to exchange dollars for Bitcoin, and in the future, that might not be possible, because there is no value to dollars. The only value today is that somebody else is willing to accept them. And so basically it's 100% monetary premium. There's no actual value underneath there. And a lot of people talk about sort of the monetary premium on housing, on real estate, or on gold, and how a lot of that monetary premium will be sucked up by a superior store of value. But 100% of the value of dollars is monetary premium, and it's a faith-based system. So all of that monetary premium is going to leave that, and it's going to go to something of actual value, which is Bitcoin. So I always like to say that the only time you're truly not early to Bitcoin is when you cannot exchange fiat dollars for Bitcoin. That's when you're not early anymore. Obviously, there's being early is a scale. There's people earlier than us, and there's people later than us, but we can still exchange these worthless pieces of paper for something finite, which is really, really interesting. Bitcoin, there's only just under 21 million ever to be created. And these Satoshis, each one of those that you acquire is a piece of that finite pie. And I think that we need to like reevaluate the way we look at Bitcoin too, because a lot of people look at Bitcoin and they think, oh, I'm never going to be able to get one Bitcoin, right? And in the past, it made sense to value Bitcoin as Bitcoin, or like to look at the value of Bitcoin in like 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.01 Bitcoin. But now Bitcoin's worth so much that we need to start looking at it in Satoshis. And Satoshis are actually the unit that the Bitcoin network uses. When you send a transaction, you pay per Satoshi for your block space in the data that you're sending. So Satoshis is actually the unit that we use. And you can get, you can get 10 Satoshis for a penny. So the unit bias really starts to flip completely on its head when you can get 10 of these units of Satoshis for 1 penny. It seems incredibly cheap.
Yeah, this is something I'm trying to drill into my head a little bit more. This, sorry, Rajat, I'm going to put this one up here. As Forrest was just alluding to there, I think that this is a number that everybody should be aware of here. I've been showing this number quite a bit. It is, I think it's kind of a level up in terms of understanding of how scarce this stuff is, because everybody's heard 21 million. It seems like more of a word and more of a thing than anything else. But when you see the exact amount of Satoshis that will ever exist, of course, this isn't how many are in circulation today. This is fast forwarding about 100 years from now. This is the maximum amount of Satoshis that will ever exist. So if you had 1 over this or 10 over this or 100,000 over this, your ownership will be locked in forever. I think that's so important to understand. Your ownership of the world, essentially, that's how I think about it, will go up forever. Because if you think about Bitcoin becoming a unit of account, that means that it's going to reprice everything, and everything's going to be priced in this number here. And so what your ownership is, if you have 1 million sats divided by this, that number will only go up in terms of your percentage. It will never go down, because you have to keep in mind that people will be losing their sats. People will be burning sats depending on how things go here. But your ownership, once you lock that in, once you protect those sats, your ownership of the world essentially will only go up. And that's something that humans have never had the ability to do before.
Yeah, and a lot of us were focused on the price. You know, it's down to 108 today. It was at 112 the other day. Like that's what we concern ourselves with a lot of the time. But it's really a much more important number is the amount of Satoshis you have, and is it more tomorrow, and is it more today than it was yesterday? Because this is the finite number that Jor is referencing, and that is the number that matters in relation to like the amount of Satoshis you have is what matters, really, basically. The amount of this pie. Just keep stacking Bitcoin. The dollar amount will inevitably go up because that's historically what it's done. We have further adoption coming. We have more money printing happening. Like the only option for Bitcoin is to go up in dollar terms over time. So it doesn't really matter if it fluctuates from 112 USD K to 108. It doesn't really matter that much.
Jor, do you mind sharing my screen? I have another graphic that actually, or a spreadsheet that actually follows along with what you were saying there. So at what the spreadsheet shows you is how much Bitcoin cost at a certain period. So we have the number of Satoshis per Bitcoin here. And then we have the price of Bitcoin over time. So February 2010, it cost 1 cent. July of 2010, it cost 10 cents, and so on. It keeps going up. And something that's here, so this something that's really important, and this is something that you made me think of, Jor, because you were talking about the number of Satoshis when we initially recorded this video. So what you see here is the number of Satoshis, the total number of Satoshis, the 2.1 quadrillion, 2 quadrillion, 99 trillion, 999 billion, 997,690, or 997,690,000 Satoshis, whatever the massive number, right? So over time, what I did here is I tried to see how much of the network you could buy, the total supply of Satoshis you could buy per dollar. So in February of 2010, you could buy 0.00047% of the network for $1. And over time, you can see it keeps going up, it keeps going up. Today the price is 108K. Even though it's crashed, apparently it's crashed from the August 2025 high, August 2025 high of $124,500. Even though it's crashed, like you can see this. At this time, you could buy this percentage, and today you can buy this percentage. So look how small that number is. It's a millionth, maybe even less. So the same amount of dollars will buy you way, way, way less Bitcoin over time.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's still, you're still buying that. Like, even though that looks like such a little percentage there that you're able to buy with $1. And I mean, most people have more than $1 they could throw into some Bitcoin, right? But that's still a fixed percentage. That percentage is not going to change once you've acquired that many sats. Your ability to acquire the more percentage of the total goes down over time as the price of Bitcoin goes up. But once you lock in that amount of the total amount of Bitcoin that you've bought, that's going to stay fixed because that 21 million is set. I mean, it's so powerful once you realize how there's nothing else like that has a true max supply.
Yeah, and something that I just thought of here, if Bitcoin does go to, let's say, $1 quadrillion, like if it takes over the money, the monetary system, it takes over the money supply, this percentage of the entire network. So if you had this percentage of the current financial system is worth $1 quadrillion. So this $1 of Bitcoin is actually worth $441 in the current financial system.
Wow. Wow.
Right. So you're in a way, you're exchanging $1 for $441 if Bitcoin does what we think it will.
So in other words,
it's fiat.
Yeah.
In fiat terms, yeah.
In other words, we're expecting Bitcoin to 441x between now and the rest of the world figuring out what this asset is.
Yeah. And that's if it goes as bullish as we think it will. And I think it will. I don't see a reason for why it wouldn't.
But it's also not capped there either, though, right?
Sorry?
It's not capped there.
Yeah, no cap. It can literally go up forever. This number, so I used 1 quadrillion here, but what if it goes to 5 quadrillion? Because the number will keep rising, right? If it goes to 5 quadrillion, if it goes to 10 quadrillion, you just have a bigger and bigger multiple. So
why is that number rising though? Is it like the
printing,
more productivity going
productivity?
Into the
that's what I would
market?
say, and printing obviously, but productivity wise, that's kind of what I would say.
Too, yeah.
So the value, the entire value in the world is increasing over time.
Yeah. So if you think about it another way, Bitcoin, so the way that Bitcoin's value increases is if more things are being traded for Bitcoin. That means you can buy more things with your Bitcoin, meaning there's a bigger marketplace, meaning that your Bitcoin gives you more optionality, meaning that it's worth more over time, right? So when at some point, let's say we have like 80% of the world's GDP being traded in Bitcoin, what can one Bitcoin buy at that time? I think that's what this shows you. So let's say the world's assets are worth $1 quadrillion today. 1 Satoshi should be the equivalent of, let's say, $440 worth of assets today.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to look at it, for sure.
It's a little abstract, and I know people probably don't agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that this is just a different way to look at it. It's a different way to really approach this based on how much Bitcoin you should have. So let's say, for example, if you buy $1 worth today in the legacy financial system, that's essentially worth $440 worth. So if you were to buy, let's say, $10,000 worth, so we'll multiply this by 10,000. So if you were to buy $10,000 worth, in a way, you're buying $4.4 million worth of value in the current financial system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Extremely. This might be too bullish, though. I don't know.
No, it's not bullish enough.
I don't know if people can handle this, though. I think
it's just projected really far into the future. I think that's that. Like, I mean, people can have a problem with this math or whatever, but it's projected really far into the future, and it's a lot of people, depending on their age, are not able to project that far into the future. And fair, right? But this is a generational asset. This should be held on to, preserved, used, but you have to use less of it as the value goes up, as the purchasing power goes up. Therefore, you'll be able to preserve more of it, pass it on to future generations, build generational wealth. That's what this is. This is a generational asset.
Yeah. And then if you look at it from the perspective of when the price goes up, so let's say, for example, if you want to wait until Bitcoin is worth $250 to start buying, or you don't realize what Bitcoin is, you finally start studying it at $250,000, you're going to be getting 400 Satoshis per dollar. Today, you're getting 926. At that time, you'll be getting 400, and it'll keep dropping. At $1 million, you'll be getting 100 Satoshis per dollar. At $10 million, you'll get 10 Satoshis per dollar. So if you put in the same amount of money, let's say you put
How
in
much
10,000.
did you start with here? Oh, 10,000.
10,000, yes. So it would be so if you put in $10,000 on this end here, compared to the current financial system, if you put $10,000 when Bitcoin is worth $10 million, essentially you're getting $47,000 out of the 1 quadrillion. That percentage of the entire network, right? So, I mean, and people are just waiting, right? Most people are going to ignore this until $1 million.
Yeah, and this is a clear example of why you actually don't want the price to go up. Like you only want the price to go up if you're never planning to buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like if you're buying Bitcoin, if you're in your earning years, if you're putting away some savings and being able to put that into Bitcoin, you want the price to stay as low for as long as possible until Bitcoin reprices everything. So you can stack more so that it's worth more in the future.
Yeah, I think the difference there between $1 worth of purchasing power, which Rajat's talking about there in terms of where we are today, and 440 in the future, is just literally people figuring this out. That's the only thing that's going to change. Like, it's not like things have to improve. It's not like things, we need anything crazy here. We just need to teach people what this asset is and why it's so powerful. I got another spreadsheet here. We're kind of on a roll here with spreadsheets and graphics, but this is one that I was thinking about, kind of based on that number that we had there. This I'm not going to try to say it again because Rajat already lived through that one. But this is basically what I did here is I took 1 million sats, which is what you can kind of get for $1,000 worth of fiat today, approximately, and your ownership of the network, or of the world, I would say. So this is your ownership of the world. And so you can see the percentage here. The percentage actually isn't that relevant right now. What I want to show is, like, with this $1,000, if you were storing that in fiat right now, every 100 days, they print about $1 trillion. So every 100 days, let's say you had one person storing their wealth in Bitcoin, 1 million sats, and another person storing their wealth in fiat. And both at the same time, it's equal ownership of each network. But as they print more money, as they print $1 trillion in 100 days, you see how this one goes down? This one didn't move because this has no impact on Bitcoin. The government's printing money has zero impact on this number. The fiat price, that's why it doesn't matter. And then you add in, so that's after 100 days. And then after another 100 days, you can see at 4.325% there, goes down to 41.46. And then after another 100 days, 3.981. So you just holding that money, doing nothing else, because the governments are printing so much money, your percentage of that world, the fiat world, is just continuing to deteriorate over time. And so that's after 1 year, that approximately $4 trillion there, your net worth went down significantly just because the government's printing money. That's your percentage of the owner. That's how I think about it, is like your percentage of the world. Because if Bitcoin does end up repricing everything, that's what we're going to be measuring things in. And the other important note here is that we have no way to verify the $2.2 trillion. That's kind of the starting point here that I had. 2.12 trillion, which is the, no, that's not right. It's 2.12 trillion. No. Global M2. What's global M2? 22 trillion? Does that sound right? Or does that seem high?
I don't know the numbers.
Right. I think M2 is the one that I usually see is the US M2.
Yeah.
That's the
hard
US
to find. The
M2.
global M2 is very hard to find an accurate one.
I don't know.
I think what you're pointing at here is the US dollar M2. So the
amount really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually bigger than this then.
Way bigger, yeah.
So this is conservative.
Yeah, and you're adding 1 trillion. So this is very fixed within the US. This is US centric.
Right. Yep.
Because you're adding 1 trillion of US dollars, but there's also additional fiat being created all over the world. So it's even worse. if you really think about the global aspect of it.
Yeah, if we're focusing on the US here, then this is very conservative. So
yeah,
the important note there is that we have no way to verify the $22 trillion M2 money supply in the US. Like the
Even the Fed
federal,
doesn't know. Like
that's
even
what I
the Fed
mean.
has no idea.
Like
and
they've been around for 111 years and they've never been audited, not one time.
Yeah.
and that 1 trillion every 100 days, that's going to accelerate.
Yeah.
Like that, the only way it can go is accelerating.
And I want to explain why that's going to accelerate. I think people don't understand why. People see that it's accelerating, but they don't get why. They just think, oh yeah, this is just how things are supposed to work. It's going to accelerate because the U.S. government is going to be they're going to be able to pay for fewer things with the same dollars. So as that happens, as the purchasing power decreases, so you know how people say, oh, MicroStrategy can pump up Bitcoin. They can buy as much Bitcoin as they want to. They can keep doing that. The U.S. dollar, the U.S. government is essentially doing the exact opposite. They're borrowing as much money as they can, and then the Federal Reserve is buying their debt off the market so that the interest rate doesn't go too high. So what they're doing is the complete opposite of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is pumping up the price of Bitcoin by buying as much as they can. On the other hand, the U.S. government is crashing the price of the US dollar by borrowing as many US dollars as they can. And you have to think of it this way. So this chart this information that Joris showed you here, the US government is shorting the US dollar.
Mhm.
They're literally expecting the value to go down and they're going to pay it back with money that they can create more easily over time. And you have to save in this. You're expected to save in this. You're taught to save in this. That's broken. Like that system is so corrupt and it's used to brainwash us. I know it probably seems like I'm going off my rocker here. I'm going crazy. Oh no, don't be a conspiracy theorist. But the system is designed to keep you poor. It's designed to get you to stop thinking about getting out of the system. It's designed to keep you where, even when I did my CFA stuff, there was really no mention of the US dollar potentially failing. Nobody talked about that. Nobody expected that. Everybody just assumed that, oh yeah, the US dollar is going to be around forever. All you have to do is you have to fight inflation. As long as you can buy assets, somebody's going to be willing to borrow your assets from you and pay you an interest, right? Somebody's going to be willing to pay you dividends. Somebody's going to be willing to pay you rent. But there was no assumption of what happens. There was no, sorry, not assumption. There was no question of what happens if the US dollar fails. What happens?
The US dollar has failed. It's constantly failing.
Yes,
It's going down in value. Yeah. And it's the only, so like, if you look at this as like an individual, like the US government takes out debt, right? They're shorting the dollar. The idea of an individual that has a loan, you hope to pay that loan back if you have more income than the debt. So you can start putting the income towards the debt, like more income than the interest of the debt, right? So you're starting to pay off the principal. That's the idea of that. But the US government, they currently run a deficit. So the GDP, the amount of tax receipts and the amount of income that the government can get is less than the expenses they have. And so they have to take out more debt to pay for all of the expenses. That's what the deficit is. So, but they have another lever. They can print dollars and they can devalue and create basically money out of thin air. And so they not only just have the ability to have income to pay their debt off, but they can also factor in the devaluation of the debt. That's the way that that's the way that the whole government hasn't collapsed already, is because they have the ability to inflate the dollar away and create basically freshly printed money with the partnership of the Federal Reserve being able to buy the debt at rates that are not free market rates. And that's the only, so they have that extra little variable that allows them to keep this going, and it's from the money printer. Otherwise it's completely unsustainable. It just on the without that, it's completely unsustainable. They would go bankrupt right away. The only reason they don't is because they have a lender of last resort and they can print that money.
And if you think about like Jerome Powell, like kind of what you're going off of here for us is like Jerome Powell was asked the other day, like why 2%? Why is that your target? Why do we need 2% inflation? And so you can talk like a conspiracy theorist, or you can just think about this logically and say, okay, well, if you were If you had access to printing money, literally creating money, it's such a crazy concept that humans have the ability to create money and like manipulate the markets. But if you had the ability to do that, what would your incentives be to maintain control? You would want to print as much as you can while keeping everybody under control, slowly making them poorer and poorer without telling them that it's tax or theft or whatever that is, hide it as inflation. And so as people are working harder and harder for less and less, because they don't have time to revolt, they don't have time to learn, they don't have time to do anything other than work more to keep up with their ever decreasing purchasing power, they're trapped. And you can continue to control them because they have no influence. Who controls the world? The people with the money. And so when you have the money printer, what do you want to do? You want to keep everybody else poor. So it's not a conspiracy. It makes perfect sense. I would do the exact same thing if I was at the top of the pyramid with the little eye on it there. I'd do the exact same thing. It makes sense. You don't want people to own their own wealth. And if you look down a little bit here on this spreadsheet, it's like, here's the cool thing is if you have 1 million sats and you know this number, this 2.1 quadrillion sats cannot go up. It can only go down. Think about that. Like just really drill that into your head. This number cannot go up. It can only go down, which means that whatever ownership you have up here, if this number is going down and down, even if you don't make any more sats or add to your stack, your ownership is going to increase over time because this number here, this 2.1 quadrillion sats can only go down. It cannot go up.
And it can go down by lost keys.
Lost keys, burned coins, whatever that is. It doesn't matter how, but the point is that you cannot increase this number, which means that whatever you have here, you're only going to go up. Your ownership is only going up. On the flip side of things, fiat, you're only going to go down and you're going to have to work harder and harder to just keep the ownership that you had before.
Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin, I mean, a huge part of the reason that I got interested in Bitcoin is I saw this as a revolution. I saw this as a way out, as a revolt against the fiat system that is so destructive and so unfair and mostly destructive. And it's almost like a silent way to rebel because it's so simple. All you have to do is any leftover money you have every month, you just smash buy Bitcoin and you're supporting this alternate monetary network that is fair and you're taking the money out of the fiat system.
Yeah, and one of the things, so somebody mentioned there, it can go up if we add a zero, but it needs a vote. I don't think that's going to happen because the people voting are usually the ones who own Bitcoin, right? So if they had, what I mean by that is the people who are essentially voting are the ones who run nodes. So let's say there's an update to Bitcoin's software where now instead of 21 million, there's 210 million Bitcoin in total, or instead of 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis, there are 21 quadrillion Satoshis. That would be pretty cool. 21 quadrillion Satoshis. That would be pretty cool. But most people aren't just going to willingly do that unless it's like like almost like a split, right? So what you could do is you could just make it so that whatever value you have is multiplied by 10. So if you have 1 Bitcoin today, then you have 10. In that case, we might be willing to add a zero, but that would only be so that we can split it into smaller units, right? So we can split it into smaller and smaller units. But it's more likely that instead of adding a zero to the left of, or sorry, to the left of the decimal, it'll add a zero to the right. And what I mean by that is instead of only being able to split 1 Bitcoin to 100 million units, maybe you'll be able to split 1 Bitcoin into 1 billion units, meaning that you have 10 times more units and you can buy things that you can pay for things that are 10 times, I guess, less valuable. At some point, 1 Satoshi will be worth $1, right? So today, what can you buy for $1? You can buy a chocolate bar, right? But at some point, because chocolate bars are abundant and you can keep creating more and more chocolate bars, but you can't make more Bitcoin, at some point, that chocolate bar, if it's worth 1 Satoshi at some point, eventually it'll be worth 0.1 Satoshis. Then it'll be worth 0.01 Satoshis. And we'll go back to how we talk about, oh, this thing is costing you $1,000. So it's 0.00 or 0.01 Bitcoin, right? We don't want that. We'll break 1 Satoshi down into smaller units. We'll break it down into micro Satoshis, or we'll break it down into something, millisats, whatever it is. We'll break it down more. It'll be nearly impossible to add a zero to Bitcoin unless the people who own it right now are in agreement with it, and then they get, let's say, another zero added to their stack. but it's very, very easy to split it into smaller units. So that 100 million that you saw, that's not going to be the smallest unit. There will be a smaller unit because Bitcoin is finite. Everything else isn't. So in the current system, like with what Jor was showing you, in the current system, you would have had to pay, let's say, let's say you have savings in the current system. If a bank is doing really badly and they're gambling and they do something stupid and they almost go bankrupt and they're at risk of basically bringing down the entire finance. I'm not sure if that record did it cut out, but every dollar that you have, a certain percentage of that will go to that bank to ensure that it keeps working, and that's the trap. So if you buy $1,000 Bitcoin, your Bitcoin can be taken away from you. But if you have $1,000, those $1,000 can be redistributed to anybody at any point. And sorry, those $1,000 can be redistributed to anybody at any point. And what's being redistributed isn't the number that you have, so the nominal figure. You still have the same nominal figure, but what you can buy with that dollar is what's being redistributed. So instead of you being able to buy a whole basket of groceries, you're now going to only be able to buy half a basket of groceries. And the bank can now operate for another 10 years and they can keep stealing from you because they got bailed out. That's how the system works. That's how the system is designed to work. It's designed to work to make it so that banks can survive forever. It's designed to work to make it so that you have to work forever. Because if you stop chasing dollars, if you stop saving in dollars, then what happens? The system collapses. Nobody wants to own dollars anymore. If you don't want to get paid in dollars, how are they going to, how's the dollar going to have any value? Where's the value going to come from?
Yeah, and for the 21 million, like the max supply cap question, it really comes down to incentives, and the people that control the consensus, they're all the node runners, and we all have the incentive to keep a max supply for multiple different reasons. If we increase the supply, that's going to dilute us. That is the fiat system that we're avoiding. We don't want that, right? We want, and the other reason is certainty. So if we have certainty with that, and if we start changing things, then that creates a huge insecurity in the perception of what Bitcoin is. And when you're building the foundation of money, you need that to be absolutely secure. That is part of the value proposition of Bitcoin, is that it's very hard to change. And it's very hard to change because it's the most decentralized, and the power ultimately falls to the nodes and the miners. And it's everybody's incentive to keep this thing as secure as possible, because that is the value proposition, and that relates to the exchange value of it. And changing something as monumental as the supply cap would throw all of that into jeopardy. And again, it would dilute everybody. So nobody wants that. And so it won't happen.
Yeah, exactly. It just it doesn't make any sense. I was kind of demonstrating there. If you increase this number, the people who own whatever it is up here, the sats, you would be voting to make your ownership of the world less. It wouldn't make any sense. Nobody in their right mind is going to vote to dilute their own ownership of the network. It doesn't make sense. So it's just kind of a stupid argument. It's a non-starter in my opinion almost. And I think that if you're trying to argue that somehow, some way the supply of Bitcoin will change, then you don't really understand what's happening here, I think.
Yeah, and it's the code that we have to run. Like, if I can actually just maybe share my screen here, Jor. This is the Bitcoin code right here. This right here, there's two different places that show the max amount of Bitcoin, but this one right here is 21 million. So I could change that to 22 million Bitcoin.
Forrest, can you zoom in on this?
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I just changed that to 22 million. That completely changed the code base of this. If I was to upload this to GitHub and put new Bitcoin, 22 million, I would also have to change the halving amount, because that's actually how the Bitcoin gets released. But essentially the max amount of money here in Bitcoin terms is 22 million. Now, the thing is this is an entirely new network, because that's not backwards compatible. And
Force coin.
yeah, exactly. And so there's no miners on here. There's no holders. There's no network. There's no exchanges. There's no 20,000 plus active nodes. There's no Bitcoin. This is not Bitcoin. right? If I change this is not Bitcoin. Nobody's adopting this.
It's like if you, let's say you have Instagram today or you have Facebook today, and somebody copies the code and they make their own version of Facebook or Instagram. They don't have the same users. They don't have the same network. Like we can call it Rajat book, right?
But
And
also, Facebook isn't open source though.
if some, let's say for example, if somebody were to find their code, and
Yeah,
let's say there's an insider who finds their code, and they do everything that Facebook does, they still won't have the same users, right?
Yeah.
Let's say YouTube or even Nostr, Twitter, all these networks, it's because of the people, and that's exactly what Forrest was saying there. So if the people aren't there, then what are you joining the network for?
Yeah,
exactly. The network, and which is the social layer of Bitcoin, is arguably one of the most important parts of Bitcoin. Like the code and how it's designed, all very, very important. But I think what we're working on now, like this is a lot of this is set in stone, and there's a lot of maintenance to do, and there's a few upgrades that'll come over time. But a lot of what we need to do is build the social network of Bitcoin, which is merchant adoptions, holders, spenders, users. That is the very, very important part of Bitcoin, and you can't create that. You can't just replicate it. Again, all the people in that network, they're here because of all of these factors. They're here because of the 21 million, the fixed issuance. They're here because you can run a node on a $200 PC. If any of that stuff starts to change drastically, that isn't the ethos of Bitcoin, right? That's much more crypto, right? And that's why all these crypto tokens out there, they don't incentivize people to hold node or to have nodes and all of that. So and they lose value to Bitcoin because Bitcoin has this social layer, this network effect that builds on itself very naturally.
Yeah, I saw a couple comments here too, because because kind of what we were trying to demonstrate there is that if once you have your sats, that's essentially you locking in your ownership of the world. That's how I think we should be thinking about it. At least that's how I see it. And somebody said the only way you could lose ownership is if you lost your sats. And I saw another comment here saying that one of the most, the biggest thing that a lot of Bitcoiners are sleeping on right now is if they died tomorrow. Here it is, Rob. Biggest threat to your own Bitcoin is dying without your family knowing how to access your Bitcoin. Honestly, like, what do you guys think the percentage would be in terms of Bitcoiners out there who have any amount of sats, whether they understand Bitcoin or not? They have a percentage of the ownership of the world right now. What percentage of those people do you think, if they died tomorrow, their sats would be gone forever? Like, just think of, and I'm not like, I'm saying this because I just want to demonstrate how much your ownership is actually going to go up in the future because of that. As people lose Bitcoin and that actual amount of available sats keeps going down, your ownership goes up. What do you guys think the amount of people out there right now, Bitcoiners, people who own sats, percentage of the world, if they died tomorrow, their family wouldn't be able to access their Bitcoin?
I think it's more people than not. Yeah, I think it's definitely way over 50% because people just, they've taken custody. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some way, like, I think you even have to put like an additional beneficiary, like on an exchange, like if you didn't even take self-custody. So even that could get locked up and could become difficult. Maybe there's a way to get access to it. So
there is. It's really hard though. Actually, I tried helping a guy. I think his father passed away, and he had a bunch of sats on Coinbase. And Coinbase, I think he spent like 6 months just trying to get an answer from Coinbase.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you might be able to get it eventually, but it's going to be a huge headache.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe if we push that aside, then it's going to be significantly less because a lot of people are not holding self-custody, which is just unfortunate. But if we look at all the people in self-custody, I think a huge percentage of them have not figured out the inheritance planning at all.
Although Forrest, I don't know if I misheard this recently somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I heard somebody say that over 50% of the coins are actually held in self-custody.
Is that right? Okay.
And I think the reason for that is because it wouldn't be based on like people. It would be based on coins. So if there was like, say, a million people who had 1 million sats, yeah, those probably aren't in self-custody. But like the whales and the people who have like a decent stack, which would make up the majority of the Bitcoin, I think I heard that 50% of people actually have it in self-custody.
So 50% of Bitcoin would be held
Bitcoin, yes, not people, right?
Not people.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked at any of those numbers, but that could be right. That could be right. Yeah. But yeah, I think a huge percentage of those people in self-custody have not figured out inheritance properly. I mean, a lot of the client work that I do, none of the people that I've talked to, and I mean, they're seeking out help, right? They're trying to figure out their best solutions.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a bit skewed because the people that have that figured out don't need help, right? But yeah, they don't have inheritance planning set up. So.
And this is one thing I would say to people, because I mean, all three of us would be able to help you with inheritance one way or the other, whether we can help you directly or find somebody to. So that's the first part, is like, if you need help with your inheritance, you want a second opinion on things, all three of us have sessions that you can book for an half an hour, whatever that is. But the other part too is, one thing I tell everybody is, like, in between then and now, let's say you want to hire us to help you with your inheritance stuff. Between then and now, I really think that people should still have like a quick and easy version of this, which is essentially just get a piece of paper, write down, if something happens to me unexpectedly tomorrow, this is who you contact, whether it's Rajat, Forrest, Jor. And then underneath that, you put in bold, italic, underline, under no circumstances will they need to know your 12 words.
Yeah.
Because any three of us could help your family restore your Bitcoin without them knowing how to do it. And, you know, as long as they know where the private key is, any three of us could help. But whoever it is helping them, they do not need to know that 12 words. They can walk you through, or walk your family through, the process without actually knowing your 12 words. So that's what I would encourage every single person watching this stream today, right now and later, is just get a piece of paper, do it this weekend, and say, if something happens to me, contact these people, and under no circumstances will they need to know these 12 words.
If anybody needs your 12 words, they're trying to scam you. Like, they're trying to take your Bitcoin from you.
Yeah, I love that plan, Jory. That's a really simple way. Like, it's not the most robust system like that, but it's the most basic that will actually cover you.
Yep.
And it's very, very simple to do. So yeah, that's very smart.
Yeah, you could put contact maplebitcoin@proton.me. But the most important part, regardless of who you put, it could be your cousin, could be a coworker, it could be whoever got you into Bitcoin. That could be the contact. But the most important part is saying they will not need to know your 12 words.
Yeah.
Should we get into some of these questions here? Nav asked a really great one.
Okay. I just want to...
oh, yeah, that is good.
The super chat, or the zaps here, are buzzing. So we had 5,000. Somebody sent in hello from Italy and sorry. 5,000. We had 18 sats, 45 sats. Oh, 1845. I got it. A couple of those. I think that's from our guy, Sin Diesel. Somebody sent in 4,000 here and said, would we ever need a smaller unit than a Satoshi for layer 1 Bitcoin?
I don't think Bitcoin? So. I mean, if you look at the mempool, right, there's this, and I think Core is going to merge the change so that there's the ability to do fractional sats for your mempool for like sending Bitcoin on chain. So that is more divisible than Satoshis right there. So right. I do think so.
Do we need it though? That's the question. Do we need it on chain? Like, I know we'll definitely need it like on other layers.
Yeah, I think we do need it on chain, because it doesn't really make sense to have, if you're fractionalizing your payment for miner fees, you still have to round up to at least one sat. What if it makes sense to have, you know, everything's worth so much and there's no demand in block space that you could pay 0.0001 sat per VByte, and you still have to round that up to one sat. So it might make sense
to for a transaction fee. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it would.
It depends what the future looks like as well, and how much Bitcoin is worth. So yeah, I don't know. I think personally that it wouldn't be very hard to change that and make it more divisible, make millisats or whatever else we want to call them. Yeah, I think it's possible.
That wouldn't require a hard fork, would it? No,
I don't believe so. I don't actually know for sure, but I don't think so.
I think the hard forks have to be, they can't be backwards compatible, right? I think that's what I've heard. Right. So if it's just a decimal, I think it's backwards compatible, because the old transactions are just like, you go from like a certain number of Satoshis to a certain number of Bitcoin, and you could just change the Bitcoin, right? You could just add another 0.
Yeah, the previous transactions are still valid, and
Yes.
somebody could operate and still not go to the decimals of satoshis and still make valid transactions. They don't have to. It's like a soft fork is when you don't have to adopt the change and you can still use the network. So I think you'd still be able to use the network even if satoshis were devised even more.
Like with BCH or BSV, they completely changed it so that you can't adopt their way of doing things, or sorry, you can't update without having to make things in the past different, right? It wouldn't operate with the past transactions.
Yeah, it's not backwards compatible.
Right.
So yeah. So people basically have to update to be able to continue to use the network.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys. I was just double checking with AI on this one. I said, if we needed a smaller unit than Satoshis on layer 1 Bitcoin, would we need a hard fork, or what would this look like? And it said, to have a unit smaller than a Satoshi on layer 1 Bitcoin, a change at the consensus protocol level would be required, and this would very likely need a hard fork to allow the on-chain representation and usage of sub-Satoshi units.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. I mean, so there's actually arguments that soft forks and hard forks, like there's sort of varying degrees of like what is actually better to do, because with a hard fork you need serious consensus. With a soft fork you can just have something operating and people can slightly adopt it, like Taproot is a soft fork that a lot of people still haven't adopted, right?
So when you said it's just so, because like it took me a long time to figure this out, and I'm still not like 100% sure on it. So just for the people who are newer to Bitcoin, like what does that look like in terms of whether or not you adopt it? Like what does that mean?
A Taproot has different address types, so it's just whether you're using that address type or not.
So you could still run a node, you could still participate in the network, you could still do everything. You just might not have to put that specific feature on it.
Yeah, essentially.
Like with a version or an update or something?
Yeah. And so like all these software, like SegWit was a soft fork upgrade as well. I mean, so these are all different types of address types, and there's different things that you can do within those address types essentially. But you could use the original. You could do a pay to public key address type, or you could do a pay to public hash, which hides your public key, right? So these are different wallet oriented creations that happened over time, and they allow for different types of
data to be in it,
different structure kind of the data. Like it depends on which one. Like SegWit separates out the block from the witness information. So then it's a little bit complicated to explain, but those things are separate, so there's more space within the block. So you can do certain types of transactions within certain areas of the block. But each one of those have been soft forks because you could send Bitcoin from a non-SegWit address to a SegWit address.
Right.
Because they're still both compatible on the Bitcoin network.
I feel like we need to do a deep dive on this maybe for Maple or for the school community. Work with Mike says don't fully rely on AI answers. 100% agree.
Yeah.
One thing I've been doing more so recently is if I need a question answered, I usually reach out to Nostr, or let's say people use Twitter. I usually ask people on there, and then I also verify it with AI and see kind of how the two answers agree or don't agree. I think AI is pretty useful, but absolutely agree with Mike here. Don't fully rely on it because there's lots of bugs to be worked out within AI, I believe.
Another thing that's useful with AI is asking the same question to multiple AIs. And if you get different answers, then you're like, okay, there's something wrong here.
Very good point. Very good point. Naughty Vlog says, could you make a video on the history of soft forks on Bitcoin? I would be interested in that, actually. I would be interested in that, doing that.
That would be good.
Yeah. I think I would learn a lot from that too.
Yeah. Okay, couple more here. We had 4, so that was 4,000, and then we had another 1845 from Sin. Thank you, Sin. Somebody sent in 10,000. Holy moly! No message on there either.
Wow.
And 8,888 sats. Quality content as always from Mark and Bella. Approved.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. So that is that Rajat's QR code there right beside his head. If you want to support the Maple Bitcoin Fund, you can scan that. And if you're watching this on your phone, you can also send it to maplebitcoin@koinos.io, and it'll show up in our chats here. And you can leave a message to it if you want to. And so thank you, everybody, for supporting the show so far. So let's this question from Nav. Is this one you were talking about, Rajat?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Nav sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Nav. Said, if fiat goes away, how do we borrow against Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think the ability to borrow fiat from Bitcoin is like you can securitize your Bitcoin and borrow fiat from that. I think that's a temporary thing that we're going to experience. I think eventually fiat doesn't exist and there's only Bitcoin. So there's sort of an arbitrage you can do right now, and that's the entire basically business model of strategy, right? They're just borrowing fiat and buying Bitcoin. And I don't believe that arbitrage is going to last forever, but it's a great trade while you can do it. And then borrowing against your Bitcoin when there's no fiat, you're getting other Bitcoin for it, and you're paying an interest rate, and it works basically how it works today, except you're doing that with sound money instead of fiat that can be printed away. And the interest rates will reflect that because there's real risk to give somebody else your Bitcoin and in exchange for monthly payments of Bitcoin, right? If it's a monthly loan that you're repaying plus interest.
Yeah,
Super
I don't think it's
interesting.
going to last very long. I think it's temporary as well. It's going to last maybe a few years. And the financial system will eventually figure it out, and they probably will allow it because that's just a way for them to make more fiat. But at some point, I think what's going to really trigger this to go away, for fiat to go away, is merchants not accepting fiat. Because when merchants stop accepting fiat, it means that you have to have Bitcoin to interact with the people that you want to buy things from. You have to have it. If you don't, how are you going to pay for the things that you want? Right. And that's going to just push people to, I mean, I think that's probably going to trigger people to start asking for Bitcoin in exchange for their time, for their labor. Right. And then asking for Bitcoin for their businesses. And that'll force more merchants to accept Bitcoin because they're going to see that the merchants who are accepting Bitcoin are doing very well. And today we see like MicroStrategy has 630,000 Bitcoin. At that point, merchants are going to have treasuries of like 0.006 Bitcoin, right? 630,000 Satoshis, right? And I think that actually that goes into the other question that somebody asked. Anyone got the math on Bitcoin needed for a large retail company to start their own stablecoin? I don't really think that there is a limit to how much Bitcoin you can have. At some point, because stable coins are supposed to be backed, they're supposed to be pegged to US dollars, right? So US dollars are going to keep losing value over time. So let's say today you have 1,000,000 Satoshis. At some point, that 1,000,000 Satoshis is going to be worth 1 trillion US dollars. Because US dollars can keep losing value over time forever. Like they can lose 99%, then they can lose another 99%, then they can lose another 99%. The decimals on the zeros on the right of the decimal can keep expanding. There can be more and more zeros. There can be more and more zeros continuously. The value of the US dollar can keep dropping below whatever it is today, literally forever. So there's no limit. Once fiat goes away, you're not what are you going to borrow? I don't think there's actually, this is something that I was thinking about. I don't think there's going to be consumer loans on a Bitcoin standard, because why would a lender take the risk? And it goes into, I guess, what Forrest said before, the interest rates are going to be much higher. So if you're going to have to pay a much higher interest rate, let's say to buy a house, it means that you can't bring your future consumption to the present, and it'll push the price of housing down. It'll push the price of everything down, because if people aren't willing to pay for things, then entrepreneurs are going to have to offer either higher quality, or they're going to have to decrease their price to get rid of the things that they have, right? So it's all the Bitcoin economy thrives on deflation. Bitcoiners thrive on deflation. Even though the US dollar in the US dollar, we have inflation. Things keep getting worse. With Bitcoin, that's not the case. And the reason for that is that Bitcoiners want more Bitcoin, and they'll keep wanting more Bitcoin. They'll keep wanting to add more. So once fiat goes away, you're probably just going to do direct transactions in Bitcoin. You're going to get paid by your employer on Lightning. You're going to pay for things on Lightning. You're going to, whatever the layer is at that time, whatever it's called, or you're going to pay for bigger things. Like, let's say a house, you're going to pay for that in Bitcoin. You're going to pay for a car in Bitcoin with the base layer.
Do you guys
Yeah.
think that, do you think that lending goes away in our lifetime? Like the
Nope.
need for credit?
I don't think so. I think people with Bitcoin will want to get some yield from their Bitcoin, and they'll be willing to lend it out to people for certain interest rates. It could
Maybe
be
for
higher.
businesses, right?
Sorry,
Like
what?
they'll be willing to lend to businesses. I don't think they'll lend to consumers.
They
Like
could.
the interest rate that they get, like maybe they'll do it in exchange for a part of the business. I don't know. What do you think that would be?
No. It's like even like Ledin right now, right? Like Ledin, as the Ledin loans, they can't be unprofitable because they're over collateralized. So there could be systems like that, right? But that's a lending product. So if you wanted to borrow, say you wanted to borrow some money, you had 1 Bitcoin, you could borrow half a Bitcoin, and
Mhm.
then that you have some sort of collaborative ownership, or you have a discrete log contract, or you've given them custody and there's sort of a trust agreement or something. I'm not saying any of these are perfect. Like loans are always subjected to risk in all sorts of different ways, but the custody structure of it could be risky too. But if the person lending out that 0.5 Bitcoin doesn't get repaid, they just take custody of that other Bitcoin. So there's
Mhm.
always going to be lending, I think, with Bitcoin. It's going to be structured differently. It's either going to be more collateralized, which is good, or it's going to be higher interest rates because there's more risk.
Yeah.
From a lender's perspective, though, if you go to the bank right now with $100,000, you want to take a loan for $1 million, the bank essentially just creates that $900,000 there. You can't do that with sats. You can't just create Bitcoin.
Exactly. So there'll be less liquid lending market, which creates higher interest rates, because there's less people, less
Right.
ability to lend out money, because the money is
Right.
real. The money
Right.
actually has to exist. It cannot be created out of thin air.
Right.
So
So in that
it'll
world,
change everything, because a lot of lending happens for speculation. A lot of lending creates inflated asset prices, as Rajat said,
yeah,
where essentially when interest rates come down, housing prices reflect that, because it's easier to acquire that money for that house. So the house price goes up, right? The house price goes up based on the ability to borrow money to purchase that home. If you have a piece of property that doesn't have a house on it, you have to sell it for less because nobody can get a mortgage for it, or whatever other situation.
right.
If somebody can't borrow to acquire it, you're going to have less buyers, and therefore supply and demand, right? The less demand, so you have to lower the price.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a good comment here. Interest is not permitted in Islamic finance, so it'll be interesting in the Muslim world. I kind of feel like that whole philosophy, like I wasn't really aware of that. I mean, obviously, growing up in the prairies in Canada, this isn't something that we were exposed to as kids. Is like, how do the Muslims invest? But I feel like their way of thinking about this is far superior to ours. We're just so used to this whole, you don't buy everything before you can actually afford it. You don't mind paying banks for money that they created. Like, it just makes no sense how we do things here. It actually makes no sense.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like we're going to Bitcoin itself is going to be a shift kind of towards that Muslim thinking around finance and investing and stuff like that. Doesn't it align a lot more with Bitcoin?
A lot more. And I think those laws have been written into the Quran. Oh, what is it? It's the Quran.
The
I'm sorry,
Quran.
I'm not very knowledgeable on that, but I believe that it's sort of written in there as an idea of getting away from like usury and debt slavery, and sort of just has a hard line. But I think that there is debt that really ruins people's lives, right? And that it creates sort of a debt slavery situation. And I think there'll be less ways of doing that in the future with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, because when you think about it, Bitcoin, what it does, its sole purpose is to basically get rid of the middleman, peer to peer, no middleman. So, on that note, like, if there's no middleman, there's no excess fees, there's no BS that we've been paying here. Metric said, "Did my comment get deleted? I had a genuine question." No, I mean, there's a lot of genuine questions in here. If we were to answer every question in here, Metric, we would be here for probably 10 hours. So what you can do is you can send a super chat like Mav has here, or you can send in a zap to the QR code beside Rajat's head. That's pretty much the only way to ensure that your question is going to be answered. We do address every super chat and every zap that comes in.
Another way to do it, if you can't do that for some reason, is to put it all in caps, and we'll be more likely to see it. And if it's a good question, and if we have time, we'll eventually get to it, but after the super chats and the zaps. Okay, I didn't see his question anyway, but anyway.
I didn't see it either. Yeah. We had a couple more zaps come through the airwaves here, boys. Somebody sent in 2100 sats, not somebody. MIX said, "Thanks, guys," from MIX, 2100 sats. Thank you. And also 2500. I'm assuming that was our guy, Ian, from Clean Your Machine Inc. If you're in the Airdrie, Alberta area and you need your car detailed, make sure you stop in and see Ian, Clean Your Machine, cleanyourmachineinc.com. And somebody sent in 5,000 sats with no message. Holy man. Sats are rolling in today, boys. What's this question here? Somebody want to read it, so give me a break.
Thoughts on MSTR lately with them changing guidance and all the drama? Just did cash secured puts today along with covered calls. I keep adding more equity. You guys have any thoughts on this? Have you been keeping up?
I haven't really been keeping up. I've been trying to pay attention more to just Bitcoin. I have MSTR and it's sitting in the background. I don't really care what happens to it.
MSTR or Y?
R.
Okay. Oh, this is MSTR. Sorry.
This was MSTR.
MSTY.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of drama with the changing guidance from them not hitting the ATM above 2.5 MNAV. Now they can advantageously. I think that just, I mean, a lot of people throw shade at that, but I think they tried it for a little bit. They saw, hey, we don't actually control the MNAV as much as people think we do. Maybe this was an example of the fact of that, because the MNAV still compressed after they weren't hitting the ATM. And they're just going to say, you know what? The ATM, like the MNAV could actually expand based on the ability to acquire more Bitcoin through the ATM. So there's an argument for both sides. So I don't think it's that important. I think it's good to see leadership adapting and actually doing what they believe is best. And I think optionality is probably the best option to have there. Yeah, I've been selling really close to expiry or close strike prices on covered calls on MSTR and just raking in huge amounts of money relative, which has been great. But, you know, my share price is way down. So, you know, you win some, you lose some, whatever. And I just expect that to rebound, and I've captured premium the whole time. So I think what you're doing is probably a decent strategy too, because you're doing cash secured puts to buy in cheaper and covered calls on your long position already. So hopefully that works well for you.
That sounds like gibberish to me. But at least I'm aware of it, and I don't try to pretend like I do know about it. So I'm more of a hodler. Yeah.
It's the way to do it.
Somebody said, was it you, Forrest, who said that you've outperformed Bitcoin recently? I think American Hodl said that as well. He said he spent the last 3 or 4 years trying to outperform Bitcoin because he has the ability, is enough sats to do that. And he said he beat it by 15% and it was not worth his time. But didn't you make a similar comment about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was you.
Yeah. And you know, I would have wildly outperformed it had I not bought a bunch of Bitcoin treasury companies and options and like short dated options on price action and things. Like I made a lot of speculative trades that like basically went to zero or near zero. And then I outperformed Bitcoin still just based on like buying MSTR at the right times and things like that. But yeah, not by much. I would have done really well had I not tried to be really cute with it.
Which ones did you buy that went to zero?
Bitcoin treasury companies?
Yeah.
Well, close to zero, I would say. I bought into Liquid, which is a Canadian Bitcoin treasury company on the Lightning network. Bought a bit of sequans as well, which is I bought some options on those that went to zero. I bought options on BITX at one point back in like 2024 March. I was so high up on them, and then IV Crush just destroyed them. I thought Bitcoin was going way higher. Yeah, so a few bad trades there, and made up for it with just the fact of holding Bitcoin mostly, and then also holding MSTR that outperformed that Bitcoin in the period that I held it.
The way that I see it, I think that's what your loans might be for. Let's say, for example, you borrow against 1% of your stack. You can use that to like do something crazy, do some kind of risky position that's probably going to end up being worth zero. But I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. That's why I say all the time, although I've only been buying Bitcoin, I've only been thinking about Bitcoin for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, because I think that if you want to take 1 or 2% of your portfolio and just have a little bit of fun, whether that is like in a treasury company or a meme stock or a meme coin, whatever that is, like, it doesn't matter. It's the people who are trying to shortcut Bitcoin and take like half their stack or their full stack and try to time the market and try to think they're going to get more Bitcoin. That's what I have a problem with. So I think as long as you have 95% of your digital assets in Bitcoin, I'm fine with that. I don't know if that'd be a Bitcoin maxi or not, but yeah, you got to have a little bit of fun here. Bitcoin's very boring. I think that's the one thing that Bitcoin is as an investor anyways. It's very boring. Like you're never going to see a 300x in a day or something like that, like you would with a meme coin, but that's a good thing too. So it's like, I don't know, people love gambling. Meme coins to me are just a straight up gamble. There's nothing at all there. So I think 95% plus of your portfolio in Bitcoin, that's my strategy.
After a few losses on that 5% of your portfolio, you want boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. It's true, because you want stability at a point. Like at this point, I feel like I've kind of given up on trying to outperform Bitcoin other than with my business. Like if you're going to buy, like my business can outperform Bitcoin, right? And the reason for that is that I don't have an expense that I have to put in. Like if I want to go make a video, the expenses are already paid, right? I have to pay for StreamYard. I paid for this mic already. I paid for the camera already. If I want to create more value through my business, I just go make a video. It's created out of thin air. It's almost like with the US dollar. It's created out of thin air, and then I can sell it. I can basically get people to watch it. I can basically buy people's attention, and then I get ad revenue through that. And then I put that into Bitcoin. So if you think about that, it started with zero. It started with nothing. It was thin air. It was like a thought in my mind, right? And I monetized that thought, and then I converted it into Bitcoin, which to me, I think that's really cool. I think that can outperform Bitcoin by 1,000,000x. There's no, because I didn't put anything into it, right? If I had put that into Bitcoin, maybe it'll increase by 5, 10, 15%, but there was nothing there. I didn't put anything into this. I started with zero.
But you put your time and effort into it,
Yes.
which is hard to value in a monetary way, but you could if you put a price on that time and effort.
And that's what I mean, right? If I were to put my time and effort into, let's say, earning from a job, right? That job will pay me a certain amount. With the videos that I'm making, I can literally get paid forever. There's no limit. And then if you compare to, let's say, buying
yes.
With if you compare to buying a stock, let's say you want to buy MicroStrategy, you have to start with a certain amount of money. And then that money has to grow by a certain amount for you to actually beat Bitcoin's returns. But with the video that I made, of course, it's my time, my energy. I'm probably going to use that doing some stupid shit anyways, right? I'm going to scroll through my phone. I'm going to doom scroll for all day. But instead, I'm putting some time into creating this video, and I'm creating value for people.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting paid for that value. Like it's you can do that with Uber, for example. Let's say you start doing Uber, but then Uber, there's the upfront cost of having the car, right? And you have to pay for gas no matter what. With making videos, there's really no cost. I mean, my time is a cost, but if I wasn't going to do anything with that time anyways, to me, it's worth it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, you might as well use your time in a productive way. Plus, with what you're doing, you're creating intellectual property, and that property can have value throughout time. You never know. Maybe there's YouTube 2.0 and you can just re-upload your same videos, and it's almost like putting them on a new billboard so they can be seen by new eyes, right? It's I've done that a lot. Like as a filmmaker, like I posted all my stuff on YouTube, and then I got a deal with a distributor, and now that same content is all over Tubi, Roku, Prime Video, and making more money there than it ever made on YouTube, right? So it's like, and I didn't know that was going to happen, but it's intellectual property that I owned that I can resell at different periods throughout time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's why when we were talking about before, in terms of like Rajat was showing that $1 worth of sats today actually has the equivalent of about $440 worth in Bitcoin terms. And that's why I said there's no cap, because that's when you take an idea and you create something and you put it out there for the world, and there's no cap and no limit to what you can do with it. That's when the world, there's endless possibilities. And that's kind of my theory with the whole thing, is like, there's no cap on Bitcoin because there's no cap on human potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mix human potential with technology increases, and things are just going to become more and more efficient, more and more productive. There's just going to be an abundance of so many different things. And as that abundance of everything expands, but there's only a fixed amount of units that can measure that, that's why sats go up forever.
Yeah, totally.
Like
Really
there can be more ideas. People can create more ideas. The ideas are basically, there's no limit. There's infinite.
That's what I was going to say, because when you think about the world as it is today in the fiat system, where people are working harder and harder, right? Like people have less time than they've ever had before. And so when people have less time because of the fiat system, that means that they can't create. Imagine what the world would look like if we didn't have to work for 50 hours a day just to feed our kids, right? Feed our family. Imagine if you had half that time that you could allocate to making things or creating things or thinking of different things and collaborating with people. Like that's where there's no limit on human potential, is because it's all captured by fiat right now. And once that it's unlocked, then who knows where we're going to go.
Yeah. There's
and all that's going to be remeasured in a fixed currency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, somebody said Bitcoin, creating videos is digital real estate. Completely agree.
Well put. Yeah.
Because you're buying people's, like you have a certain amount of space on people's homepage, and then if they watch your video, you get paid. It's like they're paying you with their attention.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically giving their attention to the companies that are putting out ads, and they're the company that's putting out the ad, they're making a certain amount of money, and they're going to give you a share of that profit. If you can make the videos, then that's what gives you that base, that platform to put ads on. If you don't have any videos, how are you going to get ads, right? Those microtransactions are what matter. I used to think, getting half a penny, who cares about that? Getting 0.001 cents. Like now it's really cool, because the videos that I make, every video that I make, for example, I will get like $0.001, so a little bit less, no, $0.009, so a little bit less than a penny per view, which I think is pretty cool, right? So the more views I get, the more I get paid. The better videos that I make, the more views I get, and again, the more I get paid. It's pushing me to create more value, to make what I'm doing more valuable to more people. And I think that's the Bitcoin mindset.
Yeah, create more value in the world. That's what you're doing. And I mean, Nostr is another great example of this in my mind, because there's sort of like a gatekeeper with YouTube, like, and there's some restrictions in like what you can do and how you can monetize and things like that. But with Nostr, you start posting on there, you're creating digital real estate through posting images, text, writing, whatever, and people can pay you right away for that value you've created. I've been posting a lot of my tweets, just copy, paste, post on Nostr. And I don't know, I made a couple hundred sats in the last couple of days just from people zapping it and liking what I post. And again, that might not seem like much when you price that in dollars, but that's a little chunk of a finite amount of sats. If we go all the way back to the beginning of this video. Yeah.
At some point those 200 sats are going to be worth $200.
Exactly. Yeah. And all I did was repost my tweets that I was posting anyway.
And even the tweets, like they came out of your mind.
Yeah.
Right. You created them out of like nothing, right? They just came out of you thinking about something, and you thought about this stuff. And anybody can do this. That's the crazy part. Literally anybody can do it. But most people are just going to say, one thing that I get is, it's oversaturated. Nobody wants to learn from me. No, that's not true.
Everybody's voice is unique.
It's a way for you to just not do it. It's an excuse.
Yeah.
There's a billion reasons not to do it.
Yes.
There's a billion reasons not to do anything.
Just like Bitcoin has had a billion reasons to die, but it hasn't.
Exactly.
Right? Just do it.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned in the original video we did, I completely forgot about it till this second, but one thing I learned from my grandma early on in my life is she had a phrase she said one time that said, look after your cents and the dollars will take care of themselves. And in other words, you see a penny, you see a nickel, you see a dime on the ground, pick it up. Don't be humble enough to do that and understand that if you do that over and over again, eventually it's going to turn into something pretty big. Instead of just focusing on the finish line there. And I apply that to sats too. Like, look after your sats and the Bitcoin will take care of itself. But the cool thing is in a Bitcoin system versus a fiat system, if you found a nickel on the ground and you picked it up and you put it in your pocket and you held on to that for 50 years, that nickel is going to buy you nothing. I mean, we've seen that in the last 20 years where we had 5-cent candies now cost like 50 cents. So in fiat, it doesn't really make sense. The value prop's different. But with Bitcoin, you can turn 200 sats, like Forrest said, posting your other posts, sharing your thoughts, sharing pictures from throughout your day. You get 200 sats. Not only is that not going to depreciate over time, it's actually going to appreciate. Because again, if you put 200 sats on the top line there, 2.1 quadrillion on the bottom, as the 2.1 quadrillion coins are lost, burned, that number just goes up. And as humans come up with more ideas, as we become more productive, more efficient, all of that is going to be divided by the number of scarce units there. So 200 sats today doesn't seem like much. You can buy that with 20 cents, but you hold on to that for long enough and it's going to be worth something, and it's going to be worth something more and more and more. So one system's going in this direction and one system's going in this direction, depending on how you store that unit.
And you definitely want to be on the system that's going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll just, we should address, Leon's comment here, super chat, £99. Bitcoin equals liferaft. Don't drown in fiat inflation. That's basically what we just said right there. Like that is a perfect summary of that, right? Like Bitcoin is going the opposite direction of fiat. Fiat's going down, right? This is just another analogy for this. Like Bitcoin is the life raft, and fiat will just make your life more expensive. And like, that's not a good way to live in the future, right? Like the cost of living. Oh man, just think about like the suffering that happens as things become more and more expensive for people.
We're
like,
seeing
it's
it.
terrible. It's terrible. Yeah.
And it's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse. Like it's not going to be like whenever I go to a party, for example, or go to an event with people, talk to people, everybody's talking about how, did you see how gas prices got more expensive? Or did you see like my groceries got more expensive? Chicken is so much more expensive. All this random stuff. Houses are so much more. That's the thing. If I go into that conversation and say, oh, you think it's bad now? It's just going to get worse. They're going to kick me out.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want me there because I'm just I'm ruining the party for them, because they don't understand that fiat is literally designed for that. It's designed to make your life more expensive. It's designed. It's not inflation is not a bug. It's a feature.
Yeah.
It's a feature of the system that allows governments to keep us working literally forever. They charge taxes even though they can print more money. They can borrow as much. Why does the U.S. government need taxes from us or from Americans if they can just borrow another $5 trillion?
Because people won't catch on to it. They think it's their civil duty to be paying taxes for the roads.
Yeah.
Rajat, you're literally the guy from that meme of the guy standing in the corner and then the other people dancing.
yeah.
Like that's you in the corner.
Yeah, it's like, oh, did you know that my expenses have gotten so much higher?
Yeah.
And then
They don't know their
the things are just
currency's
gonna get
melting.
worse. Yeah. Oh man, that's so funny.
Someone's going to make that meme now.
Yeah.
We're going to see that on Twitter in a few minutes.
Gonna do it. Yeah, if somebody can find that meme, put Rajat's head on that and have him as the guy in the corner and the people dancing, you'll be saying they don't know their currency's melting right now.
It's this one. Share my screen there.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the meme template.
That's so funny. So somebody make this for me. I will share it for you.
Guy in the corner. That's good stuff.
Dude, the worst is that when people complain about that, if you come into and say like, here's the solution, then people really like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. Like,
Yeah, like
here's
they just get so uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're
because
just
they
like,
just want to
no.
complain.
They just want to
Yeah.
complain. Yeah.
They just start squirming.
Oh yeah. It's very uncomfortable for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, don't be a party pooper. But hey, this actually I was going to highlight this, but Luminous just sent in nice 6.9. Nice question. If you can make Bitcoin payments with your phone, couldn't someone steal your Bitcoin by stealing your phone and spending your Bitcoin? 100%.
Well, it depends. It depends. So you could use one of these and you could download Nunchuck and
True.
you could transfer
Good
over
point.
your wallet and make transactions with a QR code and scan it. And then no, if somebody got your phone, they wouldn't be able to do a transaction because that has to be signed with this device.
Good point.
So, but if you have a hot wallet, if the keys are on there, it might be protected by a PIN. So they would have to have that PIN. Or you could have like a Lightning wallet on there that if there's no PIN protecting it, if there's nothing protecting it, then yes, they could steal your Bitcoin and send it. So it depends on a few variables, but there's ways to protect yourself. There's ways to protect your phone from that exact situation. Biometrics, passwords, using a hardware wallet like this.
Yeah, think of those like signing devices. So Forrest had his cold card queue there. That's a signing device. If you had an Aqua wallet that you downloaded, a hot wallet as Forrest referred to it as, then your phone becomes your signing device. If you have a Sparrow wallet or an Exodus wallet on your laptop, your computer, then your laptop is your signing device. So you want to make sure that your keys are on a device that is offline, like something like this, like Forrest held up a cold card queue. The keys are generated offline and you can't sign a transaction. You can't send Bitcoin without actually having this device present, your signing device present to sign that transaction to move the coin. So yes and no, it really depends. So what we would say, like, what do you guys usually suggest? Like 5% max on like a hot wallet where somebody could steal it? I would say max.
Percentage doesn't necessarily isn't how I would think about it. I would think of like a couple $100 of purchasing power, maybe what you would have in your wallet with cash.
Yeah,
what you'd be comfortable carrying around with cash. And you can change that depending on if you know you're going to go purchase something. If you like, I went to a conference, I loaded up my hot wallet a little more, knowing that the vendors at the conference were going to accept Bitcoin. So there might be some opportunities for me to spend Bitcoin there. It's the same thing anybody does when they go to the store. If negate debit credit cards. If you only operated with cash and you would go to the store, you would probably put a little more cash in your wallet at that point to go spend it, right? So I would think about it that way. And somebody said you walk around with a phone in a cold card queue. No, that's kind of the idea, right? Is if somebody steals your phone, you don't have your cold card queue in the other pocket where they could sign your transactions away from you.
Yeah. So limit how much you have on your phone because you can make
Yeah.
payments from your phone. So limit how much you'd have on, like, let's say Wallet of Satoshi or Aqua Wallet or let's say Moon Wallet, whatever the wallet is that you're using. Limit how much you have on there. Most of your Bitcoin should not be easily accessible if somebody were to come to you and just like the $5 wrench attack.
Mm-hmm.
It's also important to note, I think, on that note is like there's a difference between an Aqua wallet on your phone and a wallet of Satoshi, let's say, on your phone, because one of those wallets is considered to be custodial, which means that you don't hold the keys to it. That would be something like a Speed wallet, Koinos wallet for the most part. And then you have a non-custodial wallet, which is Aqua. And the reason why you want a non-custodial wallet is because they give you 12 key. They give you 12 words, your private key. You write those down. You store those somewhere safe. And so if somebody did steal your phone, you can quickly restore your 12 words into a new phone or a new wallet and move the Bitcoin before they can. Or if you lose your phone, you drop it in the ocean, drop it in the toilet, you can take your 12 words and you can restore it into a new phone. So know the difference between a custodial wallet and a non-custodial wallet, and that that should kind of impact how much you store on there as well. I've lost sats because I had sats on a custodial wallet and they were gone. I lost my phone and the sats were gone with it because there's no way to restore that.
And you've made us all wealthier from doing so because you've
you're
added to
welcome.
the deflation of less sats.
You're welcome.
We will answer this one here. I just want to answer Paul here. Paul DeBarnot, Ledger or Tangem? Neither. Neither is the answer. And we can get back to the ice cream one if you want.
Marcelo says, what do you think about Moon? Is it custodial or no? Well, Moon is a non-custodial wallet. The reason or the way to tell that is when you open a wallet, are you able to, do they give you a private key with it? Do they give you 12 words with it? If they don't, then that's a custodial wallet. Somebody else is holding the keys for you. What's your guys' favorite ice cream here? Sorry, I tried this a couple times here, Josh. What's your guys' favorite ice cream?
Cookie
I like
dough.
Moose Tracks.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What the hell's that?
What?
It's from Kawartha.
You don't know Moose Tracks?
Oh,
They have Island Farms Moose Tracks as well. It's vanilla ice cream, chocolate ripple, like a hard chocolate swirl, and then peanut butter cups.
So good.
Ooh, nice.
Jor, I'll mail you some.
I'm not a huge peanut butter guy. Don't waste the postage on it.
It might be melted by the time you get it though, but that's okay.
Yeah. I like cookie dough too. Who else said that? Forrest?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
cookie dough is
cookie dough.
good. I like cookies and cream more than cookie dough.
Oh, really? Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
probably my top three. All three of those, actually.
All three of those, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we should start a show together, boys. Sin Diesel says, I wonder what divorce will look like when the world is on a Bitcoin standard. I mean, all you have to do, Sin, is look at what WTF happened in 1971, and you can see all the implications of a fiat system. So divorce rate will definitely go down when we move into a Bitcoin standard. There will be less stress, less people working, more people spending time with their kids and their family, and that's going to have a positive impact on everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw this stat that 41% of marriages or 41% of divorces happen because of financial issues.
Yep.
So out of all the divorces that happen, some of them happen because of maybe like some kind of cheating or some kind of stupid thing, but 41% are because of money issues.
That's
and
insane.
Money
Right,
is a
that's
big
crazy.
issue.
Yeah.
Almost like money is a massive problem.
almost like it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, we should get wrapping up here, because in a minute we're going to be hopping over to our school community, and we have the Maple Bitcoin Happy Hour, which is another hour of live streaming, except it's on Zoom, and people can join with video, audio, and actually have a conversation with us and actually ask some full questions and have a conversation.
We've had some great discussions there in the last couple of weeks. It's so much better, instead of reading comments, people actually being able to ask the questions and give more context to it, and us, being able to riff on it a little bit. So yeah, we're hopping over there right now. Thanks everybody for being here today. Thanks for showing up in the chat, asking questions, for the super chats, for the zaps, most important part. And yeah, make sure you go over and subscribe to the Maple Bitcoin YouTube channel. We do want to grow that as big as possible. We've kind of been reaching out on different individual channels here, just so there's a lot of people in here, more interaction. But yeah, go check out Maple Bitcoin on school. We're going to do our happy hour just like we do every Friday. And it is great. So thanks everybody. This was one heck of a show today, I think. So thanks everybody for contributing for it.
One real quick note, not to leave these people hanging. There's a lot of people asking about Ledger and Tandem because we didn't elaborate. They're both closed source, and that has issues. Just look deeper into that. Look into open source wallets are much better, much safer. There's other problems with Ledger and other problems with Tangent beyond that I can't get into today. But they're both subjects we talked about on multiple lives, multiple times, because a lot of people use both those wallets, and they both have severe problems in my eyes. Get yourself a BlockStream Jade or a Cold Card Q, or even a Trezor even is better since it's open source.
Ask AI. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just ask AI. These three Canadians on a YouTube said that I shouldn't use a Tangent or a Ledger. Can you explain why I shouldn't?
Yeah. Or the downsides to it. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go to the happy hour session now.
Okay. Thanks everybody. Stop by school.com/Maple Bitcoin. You can do a 7-day free trial. Check out the happy hour today if you want to have more fun. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, fellas.